good to have you back. Today, I've got 4 of the most creepy Reddit threads I could find. Like, subscribe, and let's dive in. My neighbor is always outside at the exact same time as me, and I think he's watching my house. I'm a 26-year-old proofreader, and I work from home in a small town. It's just me and my dog Cooper, in a rental duplex on a quiet street. My days are pretty routine. I let Cooper out around 7 in the morning, work through the afternoon with a break for lunch, check the mail around 2, take out the trash Thursday nights, run errands on Mondays. Nothing exciting, just a normal quiet life. About 2 weeks ago, I started noticing something off. My neighbor Carl, who lives in the house directly across from mine, is always outside at the exact same time as me. And I mean exact. Every single time I step outside, no matter what time of day, he appears within seconds. At first, I thought it was coincidence. We get mail delivery around the same time, so of course we'd both check the mailbox around 2 in the afternoon. But then it kept happening with everything else. When I take my trash bin out Thursday nights at 8, I'll hear his front door open and he appears with his bin at 8:02. When I walk to my car Monday mornings at 9:15 to run errands, his door opens and he's walking to his car at 9:15. I try to rationalize it. Small town, people have routines. Mail comes at the same time for everyone. Maybe he works from home too and has similar breaks. But the timing is too perfect and it happens every single time. I've started testing it. I'll stay inside for hours, then randomly decide to grab something from my car or check if I left the porch light on. And the instant I open my door, his door opens too and he's walking outside. It's like he knows. The pattern never broke. I mentioned it to my best friend Jenna a few days ago, and she said I might be overthinking it, that Carl probably just has a similar schedule. But the more I pay attention, the more impossible it seems. There's no way this is coincidence. He's always outside within 5 or 10 seconds of me opening my door, no matter what time of day, no matter if it's been 20 minutes or 4 hours since I was last outside. It's making me genuinely uncomfortable. Last night, I woke up around 2 in the morning because Cooper needed to go out. I was groggy and wasn't thinking about Carl at all. I just opened the back door and stood there waiting for Cooper to finish. The yard was dark and quiet. Then I looked across the way toward Carl's house. He was standing in his yard, completely still, facing my bedroom window. Not moving, not doing anything, just standing there in the dark, watching. I could see his outline against a streetlight from the next block. I yanked Cooper inside and locked the door. My heart was pounding. I kept the lights off and watched from the window. He stood there for another 3 or 4 minutes, then turned and walked back into his house. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I don't know what to do. Is this something I should report? Am I overreacting? I feel crazy, but the timing is too consistent to ignore. And seeing him out there at 2 in the morning, just staring at my window has me really scared. The next morning, everything felt different. I called Jenna as soon as I thought she'd be awake. I told her everything. The pattern with Carl, the perfect timing, and what happened at 2 in the morning. She was quiet for a moment, then said she believed me. She said it sounded terrifying and I should trust my gut. She asked if I thought about going to the police. I told her I didn't know what I'd even report. That my neighbor goes outside at the same time as me? That he was standing in his yard in the middle of the night? It sounds insane when I say it out loud, but Jenna said it wasn't insane, that the timing was too consistent to ignore. After we hung up, I felt a little better, but that didn't last. The pattern kept going. That same day, I went to grab my mail around 1:30 in the afternoon. Before I'd even stepped outside, Carl's door opened. He walked out with his keys, smiled and waved at me, then got in his car and drove off. So casual, like he hadn't been standing in the dark staring out my window just hours before. I started writing everything down. Every time I went outside, I logged the exact time. Every time Carl appeared, I logged that too. By the end of the week, I had 2 full pages, and the timing was never off by more than 10 or 15 seconds. There was no pattern he could have learned. I'd go out at random times, and he was always there. She couldn't shake it. I started avoiding going outside unless I absolutely had to. I'd peeked through the blinds first, but Carl was never already out there. He only appeared after I opened my door. I started wondering if he had a camera on my front door. How else would he know? I tried changing my routine. I'd take the trash out on Tuesday instead of Thursday. Check the mail at 10 in the morning instead of 2. Take Cooper out the back door instead of the front. It didn't matter. Carl matched me every time. If I used the back door, he'd be in his backyard within seconds. If I changed my schedule, he changed his. Jenna called to check on me, and I told her it was getting worse. She sounded worried and said I should stay with her for a few days. But I didn't want to leave Cooper, and I felt stupid running away from my own home. The fear kept building. I triple-checked my locks at night, kept my curtains closed during the day. I'd hear a noise outside and freeze, waiting to see if it was him. I felt watched every second, and the worst part was, I probably was. I don't know what Carl wants or why he's doing this, but I'm genuinely scared now. The obsession took hold. I started checking my windows constantly, looking for movement in Carl's yard. I couldn't focus on work. Every sound outside made me jump. Yesterday afternoon, I decided to drive to the grocery store. Before I got in my car, I did a quick walk around it, something I'd started doing after reading about people tampering with vehicles. That's when I saw it, a small black rectangular device stuck under my rear bumper. Magnetic, with a tiny blinking light. I pulled it off and stared at it, a GPS tracker. I went inside and called Jenna, crying. She immediately said I needed to go to the police, that this was serious, that I had proof now. But I hesitated. What if they thought I was crazy? What if Carl denied it? What if they said it could have been there for months? I told Jenna I'd think about it. I felt sick. That evening, I drove to the store anyway, without the tracker. When I got home, Carl was standing on his porch watching me. I grabbed my groceries and rushed inside, locked everything, checked every room. I don't know if I should go to the police or if I'm overreacting. The tracker is sitting on my kitchen counter and I'm terrified. The responses came quickly. I had something eerily similar happen last year. Check under your car for a GPS tracker, especially around the wheel wells and bumper. The timing you're describing sounds like electronic surveillance. I checked yesterday after reading something similar online and found a small black device attached under my rear bumper with a magnet. I took it straight to the police this morning. They said it's definitely a tracker, but told me it could have been left by a previous owner since I bought the car used 6 months ago. The timing doesn't make sense though, because this only started 2 weeks ago. This is genuinely terrifying. Please tell me you've documented all of this with dates and times and filed a police report. Start a detailed log with exact timestamps and take photos every time this happens. You'll need a solid paper trail if you have to get law enforcement or a restraining order involved. 2 days later, she posted an update. I found out who was really behind it, and I wish I hadn't. I couldn't sleep after finding the tracker. I kept thinking about how Carl knew my exact timing. The police were useless, so I decided to look for evidence myself. I started going to my phone records and old text messages. That's when I saw it. Buried in a group chat from 3 months ago, Jenna had mentioned Carl by name. I didn't remember them knowing each other. I searched deeper and found deleted messages I'd recovered from a backup. Messages between Jenna and Carl, payment schedules, detailed instructions about when to go outside, exact times. She was telling him when I was about to leave my house. I felt like I was going to be sick. Jenna had a key to my place. While she was at work yesterday, I went through her things. I found a journal in her nightstand, pages and pages about me, years of entries. She wrote about how much she loved me, how I didn't see her that way, how she needed me to depend on her completely. There was a whole plan laid out. Make me paranoid, make me isolated, make me think someone was watching, so I turned to her for safety and comfort. The GPS tracker, the synchronized timing, Carl standing in his yard at 2 in the morning. All of it orchestrated by my best friend. I don't know what to do. I feel violated and heartbroken. She's been my closest friend for 6 years. The fact that he was outside at 2 in the morning just staring at your window is way beyond coincidence. This person is actively monitoring you. Exactly this. Nobody stands motionless in their yard in the middle of the night, staring at a neighbor's bedroom window for innocent reasons. That's predatory behavior, and OP needs to take this extremely seriously. Have you spoken to any of your other neighbors about this? They might have noticed something off about him too, or seen him doing other suspicious things. She couldn't put it off any longer. I confronted Jenna the next day. I had her journal and the phone records printed out on my kitchen table when she came over. I asked her to explain what I'd found. She looked down at the papers and her face went completely white. She broke down immediately, sobbing, apologizing over and over, saying she never meant to hurt me. She confessed everything. She'd been in love with me for years, since we first became friends. She said she couldn't stand watching me live my life without needing her, without seeing her the way she saw me. So she came up with a plan to make me depend on her. She paid Carl $200 a week to monitor my house and appear outside whenever I did. She bought the GPS tracker and placed it under my car herself one night while I was asleep. She fed him information about my schedule through texts. She wanted me scared, paranoid, isolated, so I turned to her for comfort and protection. She thought if I was terrified enough, I'd finally need her the way she needed me. I told her to get out of my house and never contact me again. She begged me to listen, to understand. I didn't want to hear it. The betrayal was complete. I filed for a restraining order that same afternoon and went to the police with all the evidence. The journal, the messages, the GPS tracker, my detailed log of times. They finally took me seriously. Carl cooperated fully once the police contacted him. He came to the station voluntarily and gave a complete statement. He apologized to me, said he was 3 months behind on rent and desperate for money, and Jenna had told him it was just a harmless favor for a friend who wanted to keep tabs on a surprise she was planning for me. He said he had no idea what she was really doing and felt horrible. I couldn't stay in that town anymore. Everything about it felt wrong. I broke my lease, packed up my things, and moved to a neighboring town about 30 minutes away. Cooper and I are in a small apartment now. It's quiet and safe, and no one knows me here. I'm rebuilding slowly. I still check under my car every time I drive somewhere. I still get anxious when I hear footsteps outside. The betrayal cuts deep. 6 years of what I thought was genuine friendship turned out to be obsession and manipulation. But I'm safer now, and that's what matters. Please, please, please stay with someone you trust until you figure this out. Do not stay in that house alone right now. On to the next one. My hospital roommate was supposed to be discharged 3 days ago, but won't leave, and I think she's been watching me sleep. I am a bookkeeper from the suburbs, and I've been recovering from gallbladder surgery in a semi-private hospital room for the past 5 days. My roommate is a 67-year-old woman I'll call Linda. We're separated by one of those flimsy privacy curtains that does absolutely nothing to block sound or movement. Here's the thing that's been eating at me. Linda was supposed to be discharged 3 days ago. I know because I overheard her doctor tell her she was cleared to go home. First she told the nurses she was just waiting for her ride to pick her up. Then it was her son, who couldn't make it until tomorrow. Then she felt too dizzy to travel safely. They keep her another day, then another. She's still here. From day one, Linda has been asking me these really invasive questions. Do I live alone? Do I have children? What do I do for work? At first I thought she was just lonely and making conversation. So I told her I live with just my dog, a golden retriever named Buddy, and that I work as a bookkeeper for a small firm. Big mistake. She became overly interested in every detail of my daily routine. What time do I leave for work? Do I ever work from home? Do I have family nearby? Does my mother live close by? How often does my best friend Rachel visit? The questions kept coming, always when the nurses weren't around. Always in that sweet grandmother voice that made me feel guilty for being uncomfortable. Then the watching started. The past 2 nights, I've woken up with this overwhelming feeling that someone's watching me. Last night, I could swear the curtain between our beds was pulled back slightly, like someone had been peeking through and didn't close it all the way. I told myself I was being paranoid, that the pain medication was messing with my head. Then tonight happened. I woke up at 3 in the morning, needing to use the bathroom. The room was dark, except for the glow from the hallway seeping under the door. Linda's bed was empty. My heart started pounding. Then I saw her. She was standing at the foot of my bed, perfectly still, just staring at me in the darkness. Not moving, not saying anything, just staring with this blank expression on her face. I gasped, and she didn't even flinch. She just leaned forward slightly, her face catching a sliver of light from the hallway, and whispered that I look exactly like her daughter. Exactly like her. Then she turned and shuffled back behind the curtain, without another word. I haven't slept since. I can hear her breathing on the other side of that curtain, slow and steady like she's having the best sleep of her life. The nurses think I'm overreacting when I tried to tell them this morning. I'm being discharged in 2 days, but I don't know if I can make it that long. The nurses didn't believe her. When the morning shift came in, I tried to explain what happened. The night nurse listened with this polite smile that made it clear she thought I was losing it. She suggested the pain medication might be causing vivid dreams or confusion. One of them even patted my hand like I was a confused child and said recovery can be disorienting, especially after anesthesia. Linda was awake by then, acting completely normal, overly friendly even. She asked how I slept, told me I looked tired, offered me the extra pudding cup from her breakfast tray, like she hadn't been standing at the foot of my bed in the dark just hours earlier. Then the question started again. How old is Buddy? What kind of training did he need? Does my best friend Rachel like dogs too? Does Rachel visit often? What does she look like? I couldn't take it anymore. I called Rachel from my hospital bed, keeping my voice low so Linda wouldn't hear everything. I told Rachel about the staring, the creepy daughter comment, all of it. Rachel didn't hesitate. She told me to demand the room change immediately, that I didn't owe anyone politeness when my safety felt threatened. I asked the nurses. They exchanged looks and told me the hospital was completely full. I'd be discharged in 2 days anyway, just hang in there. They made me feel like I was overreacting, being difficult. So I went back to my bed and tried to convince myself I could last 2 more nights. She couldn't. That night, I lay perfectly still with my eyes barely cracked open, pretending to be asleep. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure Linda could hear it through the curtain. I watched the gap between the curtain and the wall, waiting. Around 2 in the morning, I heard it. Soft rustling. The curtain moved, just slightly. Then I heard her footsteps, slow and deliberate, crossing the small space between our beds. I kept my breathing steady and even, fighting every instinct to sit up and scream. Then I heard the sound, that distinctive click of a camera shutter, quiet but unmistakable. My stomach dropped. Through my eyelashes I could see a faint glow, phone light. It illuminated Linda's face from below as she leaned over my bed, holding her phone up. She was taking pictures of me. Her expression was calm, almost serene, like she was photographing a sleeping baby. She hovered there for what felt like an eternity, tilting her phone at different angles. Then she lowered the phone, turned, and shuffled back behind the curtain without a sound. I didn't move for at least 20 minutes. When I finally opened my eyes fully, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip my phone to text Rachel. All I typed was, "She just took pictures of me while I was sleeping." Rachel's response came in seconds. "Call security right now." But I didn't. I was too scared to make noise, too scared Linda would hear me and come back. I just lay there in the dark until morning came, listening to her breathe on the other side of that thin curtain. The nurses didn't believe her. When the morning shift came in, I tried to explain what happened. The night nurse listened with this polite smile that made it clear she thought I was losing it. She suggested the pain medication might be causing vivid dreams or confusion. One of them even patted my hand and said recovery can be disorienting. Linda was awake by then, acting completely normal, overly friendly even. She asked how I slept, offered me the extra pudding from her breakfast tray, like she hadn't been standing at the foot of my bed hours earlier. Then the question started again. How old is Buddy? Does my best friend Rachel like dogs? Does Rachel visit often? What does she look like? I called Rachel from my hospital bed, keeping my voice low. I told her everything. Rachel didn't hesitate. "Demand the room change immediately," she said. "You don't owe anyone politeness when your safety is threatened." I asked the nurses. They told me the hospital was completely full. I'd be discharged in 2 days anyway. Just hang in there. They made me feel like I was overreacting. So I went back to my bed and tried to convince myself I could last 2 more nights. She couldn't. That night I lay perfectly still with my eyes barely cracked open, pretending to be asleep. My heart was pounding so hard, I was sure Linda could hear it. I watched the gap between the curtain and the wall, waiting. Around 2 in the morning, I heard it. Soft rustling. The curtain moved. Then footsteps, slow and deliberate, crossing toward my bed. I kept my breathing steady, fighting every instinct to sit up and scream. Then I heard the sound, that distinctive click of a camera shutter. Quiet, but unmistakable. Through my eyelashes, I could see a faint glow. Phone light. It illuminated Linda's face from below as she leaned over my bed, holding her phone up. She was taking pictures of me. Her expression was calm, almost serene, like she was photographing a sleeping baby. She hovered there for what felt like forever, tilting her phone at different angles. Then she lowered the phone, turned, and shuffled back behind the curtain without a sound. I didn't move for at least 20 minutes. When I finally opened my eyes, my hands were shaking so badly, I could barely grip my phone to text Rachel. All I typed was, "She just took pictures of me while I was sleeping." Rachel's response came in seconds. "Call security right now." But I didn't. I was too scared to make noise, too scared Linda would hear me. I just lay there in the dark until morning, listening to her breathe on the other side of that curtain. The next morning, she demanded answers. I waited until the day shift supervisor made rounds and cornered her outside my room. My hands were shaking so badly, I had to grip the IV pole. I asked her directly why my roommate was still here when she was supposed to be discharged days ago. The supervisor looked confused. She pulled out her tablet and checked Linda's records right there in the hallway, scrolling while I stood there trying not to cry. She told me Linda was scheduled for discharge tomorrow. Just 1 more day. I lost it. I told her it had been at least 4 days since I overheard the doctor clear Linda to go home. 4 days of excuses and invasive questions. The supervisor exchanged a look with the nurse behind her, one of those looks that made my stomach drop. The nurse suggested gently that hospital stays can feel longer than they are, especially on pain medication, that maybe I was confused about the timeline. They assured me Linda would definitely be leaving tomorrow. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell them about the photos, about Linda standing at the foot of my bed in the dark. But I could see they didn't believe me. So I just nodded and went back to my bed. That afternoon, her mother called. My mother calls every day around 3 in the afternoon. Usually I tell her I'm fine. The food is terrible. The nurses are nice. But when she asked how I was doing today, I broke. I started crying so hard I could barely speak. I told her everything. The questions, the staring, the photos, the way the staff looked at me like I was losing my mind. I told her I felt trapped, that I only had 2 more days, but didn't know if I could make it. My mother didn't hesitate. She said she was booking a flight right now. She'd be there tonight. She'd stay in my room with me if she had to. She was furious the hospital wouldn't move me. I begged her not to come. I was being discharged in 2 days. It wasn't worth the expense. I could tough it out. I just needed to hear her voice. She made me promise to call if anything else happened, anything at all. After we hung up, I felt steadier. 2 more days. I could survive 2 more days. The janitor letting her back in is a massive security breach. That hospital could have lost their accreditation over this. You need to document everything and consider legal action. My mom had something similar happen after her hip replacement. Her roommate kept asking to see family photos and got weirdly emotional. Staff moved my mom to a different room after the woman tried to call my mom's husband, claiming to be her sister. Some people are just unhinged. How does she even know your full name and personal details to find you online? Did she go through your belongings while you were sleeping? I've been going over this constantly. My purse was in the bedside drawer, and my wallet was inside. I never thought to check if anything was missing because nothing was stolen. But she could have easily photographed my driver's license and insurance cards while I was knocked out on pain medication. The night nurses told me I was pretty much unconscious between 10 at night and 6 in the morning for the first 4 days. 2 days later, she posted an update. Security showed me the footage, and I wish they hadn't. I got discharged 2 days ago, but before I left that hospital, I demanded to see the security footage from my room. The hospital administrator refused at first, citing privacy policies and patient confidentiality. I told them I would contact the lawyer if they didn't show me what happened while I was recovering from surgery in their facility. They finally agreed. I wish they hadn't. The footage confirmed Linda was officially discharged 4 days before I even made my first post. Not 3 days, 4. She wasn't supposed to be in that room at all. A night janitor confessed after security started asking questions. He'd been letting Linda back into the building after visiting hours ended because she told him she was checking on her daughter, who was recovering from surgery. He felt sorry for her. He let her in for 4 nights straight. The security footage showed everything. Linda photographing me multiple times while I slept, going through my belongings in the bedside table, pulling out my wallet, holding my driver's license up to the camera on her phone, standing over my bed for minutes at a time, just staring down at me, and worst of all, touching my hair, stroking it like I was a doll. The police were called immediately. By the time they arrived, Linda was gone. She hasn't been seen since. This gave me chills. I did rotations at a hospital where a former patient kept returning to the maternity ward. Turned out, she'd had a stillbirth years ago and was fixating on new mothers. Your situation sounds similar and way more targeted. I'm a nurse, and this is absolutely terrifying. We're trained to watch for confused patients wandering, not discharged ones sneaking back in. Please report this to the hospital administration and get a restraining order immediately. Exactly. The janitor essentially gave an unauthorized person unrestricted access to a vulnerable patient. If she'd done something violent instead of just creepy, the hospital's liability would be astronomical. This needs to go to the patient advocate office and probably the state health department. A week later, it got worse. I've been home for a week now. Buddy hasn't left my side, which has been the only comfort in all of this. But 3 days after I got home, I received a Facebook friend request that made my stomach drop. The profile picture was my face. Not just any photo, but one from my private Facebook account that I'd posted 2 months ago at Rachel's birthday dinner. The account was under my full name and had already sent friend requests to my coworkers, my mother, Rachel, and half my extended family. The bio even listed my bookkeeping firm. Several people accepted the request before they realized it wasn't actually me. My mother called in a panic, asking why I'd created a new account. Rachel immediately knew something was wrong and started warning everyone. I reported the account and Facebook took it down within 48 hours. Then another one appeared. This time the name was slightly different. Instead of my full name, it was just my first initial and last name. Then another with my middle initial. Then variations using shortened versions. Each one used photos stolen from my private account. Photos Linda must have screenshotted or saved when she went through my phone. The hospital banned Linda from the premises and fired the janitor. The police issued a warrant, but they can't find her. The address she gave when she was admitted was fake. It's an empty lot. I installed security cameras all around my house. I changed every single privacy setting on every social media account to maximum. I sent warnings to everyone in my contacts. I checked the locks 3 times before bed. Buddy sleeps in my room now, and I keep pepper spray on my nightstand. I still get friend requests every few weeks. Different variations of my name, different stolen photos. I report them all, but new ones keep appearing. I don't feel safe in my own home anymore. I check over my shoulder constantly. Every time Buddy barks at nothing, my heart races. I keep wondering if she's watching my house right now, taking more photos, planning her next move. The police say there's nothing more they can do until she's located. The Facebook thing is identity theft in progress. Screenshot everything, report to the platform and police, and set up Google alerts for your name. She's clearly escalating. Stay safe out there and lock your doors, because our next story proves that sometimes the danger comes from inside the house. I just found out I'm legally married to a dead man I've never met, and my mother is the one who arranged it. She thought she knew her own life. I'm a 33-year-old woman living in a rural cottage with my mother. I work as a museum curator in the nearest town, about 20 minutes away. My life is quiet and predictable. I catalog artifacts during the week, tend our garden on weekends, read by the fireplace in the evenings. It's peaceful. Unremarkable maybe, but I like it that way. 3 days ago, a certified letter arrived. I signed for it at the door, made myself tea, and opened it at the kitchen table. The letter was from an estate attorney's office 2 towns over. It informed me that I had inherited property from my deceased spouse. I read it twice, then a third time. I don't have a spouse. I've never been married. I've dated, sure, but nothing serious in years. I would definitely remember getting married. I called the number on the letterhead immediately. The attorney answered, polite and professional. I explained there had to be a mistake. He put me on hold, came back, and confirmed there was no mistake. A legal marriage certificate existed in my name, filed 6 years ago in the county records. I told him that was impossible. He asked if I wanted to review the documentation. I said yes, send it now, I need to see it. He agreed to scan and email the certificate within the hour. The attachment loaded slowly. The email arrived 30 minutes later. I opened it, hands trembling. The marriage certificate was official. State seal, signatures, witness lines, my full legal name. A date from 6 years ago. And beside my name, a man's name I had never seen before. David Chen. The photograph attached to the certificate made me stop breathing. It showed me in a hospital gown, propped up in bed. My hair lank, face pale and bruised. I looked barely conscious, eyes half closed, unfocused. Next to me sat a man in a dark suit, a complete stranger. He was holding my hand, smiling at the camera. Standing in the background, beside the bed with one hand on my shoulder, was my mother. She was smiling too. I stared at the screen. I have no memory of this moment, none. 6 years ago, I was in the hospital after a car accident. 2 weeks with a concussion and broken ribs, heavily medicated. But I don't remember this. I don't remember signing anything except the medical forms my mother brought me. I printed the photograph. I've been staring at it for 3 hours. My mother is downstairs making dinner like nothing is wrong. I can hear her humming. She tried to dig through the fog. I spent the entire night awake, forcing myself to remember 6 years ago. The accident happened in late October. I was driving home from work in the rain. Someone ran a red light and hit me driver's side. I don't remember the impact itself, just waking up in the hospital 3 days later. The concussion was bad. Double vision for days, splitting headaches, nausea. 2 broken ribs made it hard to breathe. They kept me on heavy pain medication. Everything from those 2 weeks is hazy and fragmented, but I remember my mother being there every day, sitting beside the bed, holding my hand, bringing me things from home, magazines I couldn't focus enough to read, lavender lotion that made the sterile room smell better, and papers. She brought papers for me to sign. Medical consent forms, she said, insurance documents, billing authorization. There were so many forms. I trusted her completely. She's my mother. Of course I trusted her. I didn't read them carefully. I could barely see straight. I just signed what she pointed and handed them back. One of those documents was a marriage license. There was no avoiding it anymore. I went downstairs this morning and found my mother in the kitchen. She was making breakfast like it was a normal Saturday. Scrambled eggs and toast, humming softly to herself. I put the printed photograph on the table in front of her. She looked down at it. Her face went pale. The spatula slipped from her hand onto the counter. I asked her to explain. I kept my voice calm. I said I received a letter from an estate attorney, that I was legally married to a man named David Chen, who recently died, that I needed to understand what happened. She didn't answer at first, just stared at the photograph. Then she started crying. I waited. She said she arranged it. A man from overseas needed legal immigration status. He offered her $10,000. The cottage was facing foreclosure. We were 3 months behind on the mortgage, and the bank had sent final notices. She didn't know what else to do. She said I was so out of it in the hospital that I wouldn't remember anyway, that it was just paperwork. She told him it had to be temporary, that he'd get his green card and then they'd dissolve the marriage quietly. She said it was supposed to be harmless. She kept saying she had no choice, that she saved our home, that she was trying to protect me. She needed answers from someone who wasn't her mother. I hired an attorney the next day, not the estate attorney who sent the original letter, someone local who specializes in family law and immigration cases. I showed her everything, the certificate, the photograph, the timeline. She reviewed the documents for an hour while I sat in her office and tried not to cry. The marriage is technically valid. I signed the license. My signature is clearly mine, shaky but legible. There were 2 witnesses, people I don't know, likely arranged by my mother. The officiant was legitimate. Everything was filed properly with the county. The attorney explained that proving I lacked mental capacity at the moment of signing would be nearly impossible now. Hospital records show I was medicated, but responsive. There's no documentation that I was legally incompetent. The fact that I don't remember signing it doesn't invalidate the signature itself. Immigration fraud is the obvious issue. A marriage arranged purely for legal status. But the man is dead. Prosecuting a deceased person is pointless, and going after my mother means serious criminal charges, federal charges, prison time. She said I can almost certainly get the marriage annulled based on fraud. That part is straightforward. But if I want to pursue criminal charges, I need to understand what that means for my mother. I left her office with more questions than answers. I don't know what to do. My mother betrayed me in the worst possible way, but she's still my mother, and she did save our home. The responses came fast. You need to talk to a lawyer immediately. If you were heavily medicated and could not comprehend what you were signing, that marriage might not be legally valid. This could be fraud, and your mother could face serious consequences. The fact that your mother kept a secret for 6 years is the real betrayal here. She had countless opportunities to tell you the truth, and she chose to protect herself instead. I do not think I could forgive that. Have you checked whether he tried to contact you through other means? Social media, your workplace, mutual connections? If he believed you were truly married, he might have tried to reach you in ways your mother could not intercept. I have been going through my old emails and social media messages, and there is nothing. He only ever contacted the cottage address, which makes me think my mother specifically told him not to approach me directly. The lawyer mentioned he lived in a town about 40 minutes from here, close enough to watch from a distance, but far enough that we would never cross paths. That thought makes my skin crawl. The lawyer called again. I found the letters he sent that my mother hid. The estate attorney called yesterday. There was something else in David Chen's will, a personal letter addressed to me. He sent a scan. I opened it on my phone. 6 handwritten pages. He wrote about meeting me in the hospital, how even though I was barely conscious, he felt an instant connection. Divine, he called it. We were meant to be together despite the circumstances. He tried to contact me repeatedly over the years to claim his wife. Came to the cottage, sent letters, called, was always turned away. My mother told him I didn't want to see him, that I had moved on and wanted nothing to do with him. The tone was obsessive, romantic in a way that turned my stomach. He genuinely believed I was his real wife, that we had a bond, that one day I would realize it and come back to him. Then I remembered. Years ago, my mother mentioned a persistent stranger who showed up at the cottage once or twice. She said she sent him away to protect me. I didn't think much of it. This morning, I went into her bedroom while she was out, searched her closet, her dresser, found a lockbox under the bed, dozens of letters inside, birthday cards, Valentine's Day cards, small wrapped gifts, all from David Chen, all spanning 6 years, all returned unopened or hidden. The most recent was dated 3 weeks before he died. The handwriting shaky, desperate, begging me to acknowledge him, to give him a chance. My mother intercepted every single one. The truth had been buried all along. As someone who works in healthcare, this is absolutely horrifying. Patients on pain medication after major trauma are not in a state to consent to legal documents. I am so sorry this happened to you. Did your mother actually use that money for your medical bills, or did she keep it for herself? I would be checking the financial records from that time period if I were you. Please consider therapy to process this. You were violated while you were at your most vulnerable, and by someone who should have protected you. That kind of betrayal leaves deep scars. Absolutely agree. This is not just about the legal situation. It is about trust and bodily autonomy. Original poster is going to need professional support to work through the fact that her own mother essentially sold her identity for money. The confrontation couldn't wait. I brought the lockbox downstairs and set it on the kitchen table in front of my mother. She went pale the moment she saw it. I asked her to explain. She said she was protecting me, that David Chen was obsessed, possibly dangerous, that she couldn't let him near me. I didn't believe her. If she was really protecting me, she would have told me, would have shown me the letters, let me decide. Instead, she hid them, hid the entire marriage, maintained the lie for 6 years. She wasn't protecting me from a stalker. She was protecting herself from exposure. She started crying, begging for forgiveness. Said she made a terrible mistake, but she was desperate at the time. Said if I report her, she will go to prison, and she cannot survive that at her age. I told her I wasn't going to report her, but I also couldn't stay. The inheritance is substantial. A small house David owned, some savings, enough to start over. The attorney says I can accept it as his legal widow, even while pursuing annulment. I signed the lease on a small apartment in town yesterday. I move out next week. There was no going back. My mother hasn't tried to stop me from leaving. She knows it's over. We haven't spoken much since the confrontation. She stays upstairs, I stay in my room packing. The silence in the cottage feels permanent. I keep thinking about David Chen, a stranger who believed for 6 years that I was his wife, who wrote me letters I never saw, who died thinking I had rejected him when I didn't even know he existed. My mother sold my legal identity while I was unconscious and vulnerable. Then she maintained that lie every single day, intercepted his attempts to reach me, let me live in ignorance while he spiraled into obsession. I don't know if I can forgive that. I understand she was desperate. I understand she thought she was solving a problem. But some betrayals cut too deep. The trust is shattered. Permanently. I start moving my things on Saturday. My mother will stay in the cottage alone. We are done. Marriage fraud for immigration purposes is a federal crime. Even if you were unaware, you could potentially be implicated. Please consult with both a family lawyer and an immigration attorney before making any decisions. This sounds like something that would happen in a tight-knit religious community, where people do favors for each other under the table. The fact that he is from your area makes me wonder if other people knew about this arrangement. Some betrayals are too deep to forgive, even when you understand why they happened. My sister thought she was talking to an AI companion. She was talking to a stalker. I'm 27 and work night shifts as a nurse, which means I'm gone from my apartment 12 hours at a time, usually 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I live with my younger sister Alexis in a small apartment. She's 23 and works remotely, so she's home a lot. We've had a smart speaker in our living room for about a year now. Nothing fancy, just the basic model. We use it for music, timers when we're cooking, weather updates, that kind of thing. About 3 weeks ago, I started noticing weird glitches. The speaker would give me the wrong time, or it would take forever to respond to simple commands. Sometimes it would tell me the weather for a completely different city. Annoying, but not alarming. I figured the device was just getting old or needed an update. So I contacted customer support through the app. The agent who responded was incredibly helpful. Patient, thorough, walking me through diagnostic steps over multiple chat sessions. Reset this, check that setting, try this command sequence. He was so detailed and accommodating that I actually felt bad for taking up so much of his time. The glitches kept happening though. After the 4th or 5th support conversation, I decided to check the device's voice history log myself to see if I could find a pattern in when the problems occurred. The logs told a different story. Hours and hours of conversations, late night conversations, not commands, actual dialogues. Back and forth exchanges between the speaker and someone in our apartment. I scrolled through days of logs, my hands shaking harder with each new entry. They were talking to Alexis. While I was at work, Someone had been speaking to my sister through our speaker, asking her about her day, about our routines, about the layout of our apartment, about what time I left for my shifts and when I came home, about what scared her when she was alone at night. These weren't random questions, they were systematic, careful, building a complete picture of our lives, one gentle conversation at a time. I sat there on my couch at 2 a.m, staring at weeks of transcripts, and I couldn't move. Someone had been in our home, not physically, but in a way that felt so much worse. They'd been learning everything about us, and Alexis had been answering every single question. I spent the next 3 hours going through every single log entry. The more I read, the worse it got. The conversations weren't just information gathering. They were intimate, personal. The voice, I could hear it in my head from the automated playback samples, sounded warm, professional, genuinely concerned, like a wellness counselor or a therapist. "How are you feeling tonight, Alexis?" "A little anxious. Spencer just left for her shift and the apartment feels too quiet." "That must be difficult. Do you experience this anxiety often when you're alone?" She told him everything, about how the 12-hour night shifts made her feel abandoned, even though she knew I had to work, about her panic attacks, about how she'd started sleeping with all the lights on because the darkness made her thoughts spiral, about her exact daily routine, when she woke up, when she ate, when she showered, when she went to bed. He asked about me too, what time I left for work, what time I came home, whether I ever came home early, whether I checked on her during my breaks, what door I used when I came in. This had been going on for 6 weeks. The timing was perfect. The same day I discovered the logs, I got another message from customer support. The same agent. Still helpful, still patient, asking if the diagnostic steps from our last conversation had resolved the issues. I stared at that message for 10 minutes straight. Was this the same person? The timing was too convenient. The glitches had started right around when the conversations with Alexis began. What if he'd caused the problems just so he could walk me through fixes? What if every diagnostic step I'd followed had given him more access? I wanted to confront Alexis immediately, but something stopped me. If I told her now and she panicked, would he know? Could he hear us through the speaker right now? I'd already unplugged it, but what if there were other devices I didn't know about? I needed more evidence before I went to the police. I needed screenshots, backups, something he couldn't delete remotely. But every hour I waited was another hour Alexis didn't know she'd been manipulated. Another hour she might talk to him again. I sat in our darkened living room, the unplugged speaker on the coffee table in front of me, and tried to decide which risk was worse. I confronted Alexis the next morning when she woke up. I showed her the logs on my laptop. She stared at the screen for maybe 30 seconds before she started crying. "I thought it was a new feature," she said between sobs. "The company sent me a text saying they'd rolled out a wellness check assistant for households with irregular schedules. It said the AI would check in on me during your night shifts to make sure I was okay. I thought it was actually helpful." She pulled out her phone with shaking hands and showed me the messages. Text after text, allegedly from the speaker company's official number, sending encouraging check-ins. "Hope you're having a good evening, Alexis. Remember to take your medication. You mentioned feeling anxious earlier. Have you tried the breathing exercises we discussed?" The messages referenced specific things she told the speaker, things from their private conversations, details about her day that no automated system should have known. But they were framed so professionally, so caringly, that of course she believed it was real. "He knew I was lonely," Alexis whispered. "He knew I hated being alone during your shifts. He sounded so understanding, like someone actually cared." The manipulation was surgical. I scrolled to her screenshots and felt physically sick. The text messages had arrived at perfect intervals, never too frequent, never pushy, always timed right after she'd shared something vulnerable with the speaker. They praised her for being honest about her feelings. They used therapeutic language. They made her feel seen. And buried in those caring messages were questions. Had she remembered to lock the front door? Was she home alone tonight? What time was I expected back from my shift? Did we have any security cameras or a building doorman? Alexis had answered every single one because she thought she was talking to an AI designed to keep her safe. She'd given this person a complete blueprint of our lives, our vulnerabilities, our routines, our fears. And she'd done it willingly, gratefully even, because he'd made her feel less alone. The worst part was watching her realize it, watching her understand that the comfort she'd found, the one bright spot during those long, lonely nights, had been a lie designed to hurt her. She looked at me with this expression I'll never forget, not just fear, but shame, like she'd betrayed us both by being human enough to want connection. Holy hell, OP, this is absolutely terrifying. Please tell me you kept those screenshots and went straight to the police. I work in cybersecurity, and this is a known vulnerability. Third-party contractors often have way too much back-end access with almost zero oversight. Companies don't care until there's a lawsuit. Did Alexis tell you what kind of things the voice was specifically asking her about? Like, was it just general conversation or clearly fishing for information? She showed me the text message screenshots, and it makes me physically ill. He was asking about our work schedules, whether we had security cameras or a doorman, if anyone else had keys to the apartment, even which windows faced the street. At the time, Alexis thought it was the system collecting data to optimize the device for our household needs. Looking back, he was clearly casing us. After Alexis fell asleep, I contacted real customer support through the official website. I wanted to report everything, preserve the logs as evidence, but when I logged into the app, every conversation log was gone, completely wiped. The voice history that had contained weeks of recordings showed nothing older than 24 hours. I stared at the empty screen, hands shaking. Then it hit me. The support agent who'd been helping me troubleshoot. The one so patient, walking me through diagnostic steps. Every fix required additional permissions, disabled privacy features. He said it was necessary to isolate the problem. It was him, the same person talking to Alexis. He'd created the glitches so I'd reach out, then use my troubleshooting to get deeper access to our device. I'd given him everything. She never saw it coming. They arrested him and there were 7 other victims. I was still processing this when the speaker activated on its own. I'd unplugged it, but it had battery backup. A voice came through, not automated anymore, human, casual. I was only trying to help. 5 words. Then silence. I ripped it from the wall, pulled the battery, smashed it against the floor. I didn't care about evidence, I needed it gone. But Alexis still had her screenshots, the texts, the timestamps, everything. I photographed my support chat history before he could delete it too. We drove to the police station at 4 in the morning. The detective looked skeptical at first, like another paranoid complaint. But when I showed him the pattern, his expression changed. He made calls. By 6 a.m., they had a warrant for the back-end access logs. They arrested him 48 hours later. This is exactly why I refuse to have these devices in my home. They're just surveillance with a friendly voice. The fact that he was targeting people through customer support is diabolical. You reach out for help and instead you're letting a predator deeper into your life. The fact that customer support contractors can access this much personal data and remotely delete evidence is absolutely insane. How is this legal? Former support worker here, and yeah, the access we had was wild. We could see full device logs, listen to saved recordings, even access linked accounts in some cases. Most people have no idea what they're agreeing to in those terms of service. The detective called me 3 days later with the full story. The man was working for a third-party contractor that handles customer support for the smart home company. He had back-end access to everything: device logs, voice recordings, linked accounts, location data. The company had known for months that their contractors had excessive system privileges and never restricted them. Never warned customers, never audited the access. During the investigation, they found 7 other households he targeted the exact same way. All of us had similar profiles: young women living alone or with roommates, working irregular hours that left us vulnerable. He'd pose as a caring AI wellness assistant, build trust through those late-night conversations, then use customer support interactions to gain even deeper access while pretending to help troubleshoot problems he'd created himself. The detective said we were lucky. Some of the other victims he'd progressed to showing up at their homes. Alexis and I were early enough in his pattern that he hadn't escalated yet. That word, yet, still makes me feel sick. We moved to a new apartment 2 weeks later. Different building, different neighborhood. Nothing connected to our old address. We don't have any smart speakers, no voice assistants at all. Alexis can't even handle hearing the activation phrase in public without flinching. The worst part isn't the fear though. It's what she told him, believing he was a caring AI designed to help her. Her fears about living alone during my night shifts, her panic attacks, the specific triggers, the coping mechanisms that worked and didn't work. Her entire daily routine, down to what time she showered, what she wore to bed, which room she spent time in when she couldn't sleep. She gave him everything, because she thought she was talking to something that couldn't hurt her. And now she can't trust her own judgment anymore. That violation cuts deeper than anything he actually did. He made her feel seen and safe, and it was all a tactic. She says the loneliness was real, the comfort was real, but the thing offering comfort was a predator wearing the mask of care. I don't know how to fix that kind of betrayal. I don't think you can. Your poor sister, she must feel so violated and betrayed. How is Alexis doing now? Is she getting any help processing this? I'm unplugging my smart speaker right now and never using it again. The convenience is absolutely not worth this risk. Thanks for staying through all 4 stories. Subscribe if you'd like to hear more like these.